Now it's time to construct some of the things we talked about before. When we talk about constructions, we're talking about using a compass. That's what this is. And a straight edge. Now, a straight edge can be a ruler, because a ruler has a straight edge, or anything that helps us draw a straight line. Preferably, we're not using a ruler because we're not really supposed to be measuring with it. We're supposed to be measuring with the compass. We're just using the ruler as a straight edge. Now, the first construction that we're going to look at is copying a segment. Copying the segment, our goal is to use the compass as a ruler. Use it to measure. So how do we do that? Well, if we take our compass and we turn it around so that we can put one end on each end point of our segment like that, then we can see how long it is, and we can show this is that long, and this is that long, and this is that long. We're copying this segment. So what's the first step in copying a segment? Well, look at what a segment's made out of, 2 endpoints. So the first step in copying the segment is draw an endpoint, or draw a point. So let's do that first. Now, I realize that you might not have a compass with you, and that's okay, but you can at least take note of what we're doing. So I'm going to draw a point. Now I'm going to measure the segment that I have right here. I see that that segment goes from that point to that point. I don't have to know anything except keep my compass that same amount. So what did we just do? We measured the segment with the compass. Now let's go over to this point and say, well, from this point, I can put a point here. Now that's kind of in my way, so I'm going to swing it around and put the point somewhere else. Here's where it is. So I'm going to use my compass, just draw an arc. I can draw a little arc, or if I wanted, I could draw a big arc. It doesn't really matter how big my arc is. So I draw an arc. From the first point. So this part of the compass, the pointy part, is called the center of the compass. The center of the compass is on that point. Then I drew an arc from that point. Finally, I don't need my compass anymore. I'll move that out of the way. Now I take my straight edge, and I'm going to connect from the point to that arc. Like that. So notice I can go anywhere on that arc because the pencil hit anywhere on that arc. So I'm going to take my pencil now and connect from that point using my straight edge to that arc. Now, our ruler can help us check that it is the correct length. This goes 0, starting at 0, about 50 units on my ruler. So I'm going to go over here and measure just to check that it's also about 50 units on my ruler. Fabulous. So what was our fourth step? Our fourth step was to connect with the straight edge. We'll practice that more in class. Let's look at another construction. Bisecting a segment. We're going to use both the compass and the straight edge to bisect the segment. First of all, we have to start with the segment. That will be given. So let's make a note that the segment is given. We don't have to draw that. But we'll be told, bisect the segment, cut it in half. Well, similarly to how we copied a segment, we put the center of the compass, the pointy part, at one endpoint. And then we make sure that the compass is open wider than halfway. Now, how wide is that? Well, I eyeball about where midpoint is, and I make sure it's open past halfway. So let's take note of what we're doing. Let's start at one endpoint, And what does it mean to start at one endpoint? It means the center of the compass, or the pointy part, is on an endpoint. From there, we can either draw an arc in two places, like you see on your notes, or if we prefer, we can draw an entire circle. So either we draw two arcs or one circle. Next picture, we go to the other endpoint. So on this one, we started at one endpoint. On the other picture, we're going to start at the other endpoint. So without moving, changing how my compass looks, meaning how far apart they're open, how wide it's open, how wide the radius is, it's called a radius, we're going to draw either two more arcs that intersect the first ones or another circle. So what are we doing? We go to the other endpoint and we draw two arcs or, again, one circle. So I could draw a little arc here and then swivel around and draw another little arc. Or if I really want to, I can draw the entire circle or just a larger arc, as long as it's intersecting the first arcs or circle I made in 2 points. That's the main thing. We have to remember that this next arc or arcs or circle that we make must intersect the other arcs or circle. If it doesn't intersect, we might need to start over. Finally, we take our straight edge, this guy, and we connect those intersection points. See where the two arcs met from up here? They intersected. Intersect. That's where we're going to connect, from intersection point to intersection point. So we take our straight edge, and we may have to rotate it so that we can line it up and connect with our straight edge. So what's our final step? Connect the intersection points with a line using our straight edge. Now I want you to notice something. After we did that, notice in this corner the symbol that's in your notes. Now I'm going to take my rectangular ruler and I'm going to line it up in the corner right there. See how it's perfectly in the corner? That's because when we draw a segment bisector, we will always be making it perpendicular. So an important note to remember is that the bisector will be perpendicular. Remember, that means it makes a right angle or 90 degrees to the segment. So not only are we drawing a perpendicular, not only are we drawing a bisector, we're drawing a perpendicular bisector. Maybe we make that note up here. Awesome. Now take a minute to write a summary. Compare and contrast. Describe how midpoint and segment bisector, midpoint and segment bisector are similar and how they are different. See you in class.